The signature was just another formality. Julian Cross had signed his name thousands of times, contracts worth billions, deals that reshaped industries, documents that held the futures of thousands of employees in their legal clauses. His signature was worth more than most people would earn in a lifetime. It was decisive, sharp, without flourish. Like everything else about him. But this document felt different. Last Will and Testament of Robert Chun, the header read. Julian's jaw tightened as he scanned the pages his attorney had highlighted in yellow. Robert, his business partner of 15 years. Dead at 42 from a heart attack that came without warning, leaving behind a company in flux, a merger hanging by a thread, and a child, Julian said aloud, his voice flat in the leather and mahogany quiet of his office. He never mentioned a child. His attorney, Patricia Valdez, had the decency to look uncomfortable. He was private about his personal life. The girl, Lily, she's 8. She's been in foster care since her mother's parental rights were terminated 3 years ago. Robert was in the process of adopting her when he passed. And this clause. Julian's finger tapped the paragraph that had turned his week into a nightmare. Patricia cleared her throat. If you don't complete the adoption within 60 days, Chen's shares revert to his estate, which means they'll be sold to outside investors. The merger with Hartwell Industries collapses. You'll lose controlling interest in your own company. Julian leaned back in his chair, the Manhattan skyline glittering behind him through floor-to-ceiling windows. 43 stories up, the noise of the city was a distant hum. Up here, everything was controlled, clean, predictable. A child would shatter that. Robert did this on purpose, Julian said quietly. It wasn't a question. He knew you, Patricia admitted. He knew you'd never let the company fall apart. He knew I'd never choose this otherwise. Julian studied the attached photo. A small girl with dark hair pulled into uneven pigtails, eyes too serious for her age, wearing a dress that seemed slightly too big. She wasn't smiling. Something about her expression reminded him of looking in the mirror as a boy. He hated that. Set it up, he said finally. Whatever needs to happen. I'll sign the papers. Patricia hesitated. Julian, this isn't a merger. This is a child. She's been through trauma, multiple placements. I'll provide everything she needs. The best schools, medical care, whatever services children require. I'll hire appropriate staff. She doesn't need staff. She needs a parent. Julian's expression froze into something polite and immovable. Then it's fortunate that Roberts will only requires legal adoption, not emotional attachment. Arrange it, Patricia. Quickly. After she left, Julian stood at the window for a long time, watching the sun set over the city he'd conquered. He'd built Cross Industries from nothing, from being a 17-year-old orphan whose uncle had stolen his inheritance, who'd learned that trust was for people who could afford to be disappointed. He'd learned better. Love was what weak people called their need for validation. Family was a liability disguised as belonging. He'd spent 26 years proving that success required isolation, that emotional distance was the ultimate competitive advantage. A child wouldn't change that. Couldn't change that. It was just another transaction. He was good at transactions. Across the city, in a narrow row house in Queens, Lily Chin was being good. She was always good. Being good meant you didn't get moved. Being good meant maybe they'd keep you. Lily, sweetie, come help set the table, Mrs. Rodriguez called from the kitchen. Yes, ma'am. Lily carefully placed her book, a worn copy of The Secret Garden from the library, on the couch, spine aligned with the edge of the cushion, exactly as she'd found it. She moved quietly down the hallway, making herself small, taking up as little space as possible. The Rodriguez home was her third placement in 2 years. They were kind. They had 4 other foster children, all younger, all louder. Lily had learned to be the invisible one, the easy one. She never complained, never asked for anything, never cried where anyone could hear. At dinner, the younger children chattered and fought over the last roll. Lily ate exactly half her portion and carefully arranged her fork and knife parallel on her plate. You can have more, honey, Mrs. Rodriguez said gently. You barely ate anything. I'm full, thank you, Lily lied. Her stomach was still empty, but taking more felt greedy. Greedy children got sent back. After dishes, which she washed without being asked, Lily retreated to the room she shared with 2 other girls. She pulled out the small notebook the social worker had given her for processing feelings and wrote in careful print. Today I got an A on my spelling test. I didn't tell anyone because nobody asked. Tomorrow Ms. Davis is coming. Maybe this time is different. Maybe this time is forever. She didn't let herself believe it. The next morning, Lily wore her nicest dress, the blue one with small flowers that the church donation box had provided. She brushed her hair 100 times and braided it herself, fingers remembering the pattern her mother had taught her before everything broke. Ms. Davis, her social worker, arrived with a smile that tried too hard. "Good morning, Lily. You look very pretty. Are you ready?" "Yes, ma'am." "Where am I going?" The adults exchanged glances. Mrs. Rodriguez knelt down, her eyes kind but sad. "Lily, sweetheart, you're going to live with someone very special. A man named Mr. Cross. He was a friend of someone who cared about you very much." Lily's chest tightened. "For how long?" "Forever, honey. He's adopting you. Forever." The word felt too big, too breakable. Lily had learned that forever was something adults said when they meant for now. "Okay," she whispered. "Thank you for having me." She hugged Mrs. Rodriguez carefully. Not too tight, never too tight, and picked up her single suitcase. Everything she owned fit in one bag. She'd learned to travel light. In the car, Ms. Davis talked cheerfully about Mr. Cross. "He's very successful. Very busy. He has a beautiful home in Manhattan. You'll have your own room, your own things. He wants to take care of you." Lily nodded, her hands folded in her lap, fingernails digging into her palms. "He wants to take care of you. Not he wants you." There was a difference. Lily was 8, but she understood the difference. The building was so tall it hurt her neck to look up at it. Everything was glass and steel, and people in suits moving fast. The doorman wore white gloves. The elevator was mirrored on all sides, and Lily avoided looking at herself, small, nervous, out of place. The penthouse was silent. Ms. Davis pressed the doorbell. Footsteps approached, measured, unhurried. The door opened. The man was tall, dark-haired, wearing a suit that probably cost more than every place Lily had ever lived. His face was handsome in a sharp, careful way, like a drawing with no soft edges. His eyes were gray and distant. He looked at her the way people looked at something they were deciding whether to buy. "Mr. Cross, this is Lily," Ms. Davis said brightly. Julian extended his hand for a handshake, formal, businesslike. Lily stared at his hand for a moment, confused, terrified, desperate to do this right. Then she dropped into an awkward curtsy, the kind she'd seen in old movies, nearly losing her balance. "Hello, sir," she whispered. "Thank you for letting me stay." Something flickered across Julian's face, surprise, discomfort, something else she couldn't name. His hand lowered slowly. "You don't need to curtsy," he said. His voice was deep, controlled. "Come inside." The penthouse was the most beautiful place Lily had ever seen. It was also the coldest. Everything was white or glass or chrome. Nothing looked like anyone actually lived there. No pictures on the walls. No mess. No warmth. This is forever, Lily thought, and tried very hard to believe it. Have you ever had to prove yourself to someone before they'd accept you? What would you tell this little girl if you could speak to her right now? Drop your thoughts below. Sometimes we all need to hear that we're enough exactly as we are. The first week passed in careful silence. Julian had hired Mrs. Kavita Patel within hours of Lily's arrival, a warm, 60-something woman with kind eyes and 2 decades of experience with high-net-worth families. She moved into the guest suite, took over Lily's care with practiced efficiency, and became the buffer between guardian and child. Lily's room was decorated by an interior designer who specialized in luxury children's spaces. Everything matched. The bed had more pillows than one child could possibly need. The closet held clothes still bearing tags, organized by color and season. There was a desk, a reading nook, shelves waiting for books and toys that Lily didn't have. It was perfect. It felt like a hotel. Lily kept her suitcase under the bed, unpacked but ready. Just in case. Julian established a routine with military precision. He left for the office at 6:30 a.m. before Lily woke. He returned after 8 p.m., after she'd eaten dinner. Mrs. Patel provided updates via text. Lily ate well. Lily's enrolled at Ashford Academy. Lily asked about you. He deleted that last text without responding. On the 8th night, Julian came home to find Mrs. Patel waiting in the kitchen, arms crossed. "She asks about you every day," Mrs. Patel said without preamble. "When you'll be home. What you like. If she's doing something wrong." "She's not doing anything wrong. She has everything she needs. Except you." Julian loosened his tie, exhaustion pressing behind his eyes. "I provide for her. That's what matters. I didn't sign up to be someone's emotional support." Mrs. Patel's expression softened with something like pity. No one signs up for that, Mr. Cross. That's called being a parent. He didn't respond. Didn't know how to respond. That night, Julian worked in his home office until well past midnight. Conference calls with London, contract revisions that couldn't wait, anything to avoid the silence of the penthouse that somehow felt louder with a child in it. At 2:17 a.m., he finally closed his laptop. The hallway was dark as he headed toward his bedroom. And then he saw her. Lily sat on the floor outside his office door, knees pulled to her chest, wearing pale pink pajamas with stars on them. Her hair was loose around her shoulders, messy from sleep. She wasn't crying. She was just there. Waiting. Julian stopped short. "What are you doing up?" She flinched at his voice, scrambled to her feet. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean, I was just. It's after 2 in the morning. I know. I'm sorry." Her voice was barely audible. She was already backing away, ready to disappear. "Wait." The word came out sharper than he intended. He forced his tone neutral. "Did you need something? Are you sick?" Lily shook her head quickly. Too quickly. Her hands twisted together, fingers knotting and unknotting. "Then what are you doing out here?" The question hung between them in the dim hallway. Julian could see her struggling with whether to tell the truth or give the answer she thought he wanted. He'd seen that calculation before, in boardrooms, in negotiations. Never from a child. Finally, so quietly he almost missed it. "I had a bad dream." Something in his chest tightened. "About what?" "I don't remember." Another lie. He could see it in her eyes. "You should go back to bed." "I know. I will. I just..." She looked up at him then, really looked at him, and her eyes were ancient in her small face. "I just wanted to make sure you were still here." The words hit him like a physical blow. Still here. As if he might disappear. As if everyone always disappeared. Julian stood frozen in the hallway, this tiny girl looking at him like he was the only solid thing in a shifting world, and he felt something crack inside his chest, something he'd sealed over with years of careful control. He didn't know what to do with his hands. Didn't know what to do with the feeling crawling up his throat. "I'm here," he said finally. The words felt inadequate, wrong. "I'm not. This is your home now." "Okay." She nodded but didn't move. "I'm glad. You should sleep." "Yes, sir." She started to turn, then paused. "Mr. Cross." "What?" "Can I?" She stopped, shook her head. "Never mind. Good night." She disappeared down the hallway, a small ghost in star-printed pajamas, leaving Julian standing alone in the dark. He should have gone to bed. Should have dismissed the interaction as a minor disruption, a child's nightmare, nothing that required analysis. Instead, he found himself walking to her bedroom door. It was closed, but light seeped through the crack at the bottom. He raised his hand to knock, then lowered it. What would he even say? "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be what you need. I don't know how to let anyone need me." He stood there for 3 full minutes, hand hovering, frozen by indecision. Finally, he stepped back, walked to his own room, closed the door. But he didn't sleep. He lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and replayed the moment over and over. "I just wanted to make sure you were still here." How many times had she woken up to find the adults in her life gone? How many promises had been broken? How many times had she been the one left behind? Julian had spent his entire adult life building walls. They'd kept him safe, kept him focused, kept him from ever being vulnerable enough to hurt. But lying there at 2:30 in the morning, knowing that a little girl down the hall was checking to see if he'd abandoned her, he felt those walls crack. Just a little. Just enough to terrify him. At 2:47 a.m., Julian got out of bed and walked back to the hallway outside his office. He sat down in the exact spot where Lily had been sitting, back against the wall, and stayed there until dawn. He wasn't sure why. He wasn't sure what he was proving, or to whom. But some small, buried part of him understood. She'd been checking to make sure he was real. That he was still there. And now he was doing the same. When Mrs. Patel found him there at 6 a.m., she didn't say anything. She just brought him coffee and a knowing look that made him feel transparent and young and utterly out of his depth. "She's still asleep," Mrs. Patel said softly. "But she'll wake up soon. You could have breakfast with her. If you wanted." Julian took the coffee, his hands wrapped around the warm ceramic. "I have a meeting at 7. "You always have a meeting, Mr. Cross." He didn't answer. Just stood, joints stiff from sitting on the floor, and headed to his room to shower and change. But as he passed Lily's door, he paused. Listened to the silence behind it, Wondered what nightmares chased a child who'd learned to check if the adults were still there before she let herself believe in anything. And for the first time in longer than he could remember, Julian Cross called his assistant and moved his 7 a.m. meeting to noon. He had breakfast to attend. Julian managed 3 breakfasts before panic set in. The first was awkward, both of them sitting at opposite ends of the long marble dining table, the sound of silverware on plates echoing in the cavernous space. Lily ate with meticulous care, like someone who'd been judged on table manners. Julian scrolled through emails on his phone, occasionally glancing up to find her watching him with those 2 old eyes. "Do you need something?" he asked the 3rd time their eyes met. "No, sir." She looked down quickly. "I'm sorry." "Stop apologizing." "Sorry," she caught herself. Bit her lip. The second breakfast, he tried conversation. "How's school?" "Good." "Are the teachers adequate?" "Yes, sir." "Do you need anything?" "Supplies?" "Books?" "No, thank you." Mrs. Patel got everything. The silence stretched. Julian cleared his throat. "What subjects do you like?" "All of them." She was giving him the answers she thought he wanted. He could see her calculating, adjusting, making herself into whatever would please him most. It reminded him too much of himself. The third breakfast, Lily brought a book to the table, The Secret Garden, and placed it face down beside her plate. Julian noticed it was worn, the spine cracked from multiple readings. "What's it about?" he asked, surprising himself. Her face lit up, the first genuine expression he'd seen from her. "It's about a girl who finds a hidden garden, and she brings it back to life, and it brings her back to life too, and—" She stopped abruptly, as if remembering herself. "Sorry, you probably don't care about kid stuff." I asked. "Oh," she picked at her toast. "It's my favorite. I've read it 6 times. "Why?" She considered the question seriously. "Because everything that seems dead can grow again, if someone cares for it." The words sat between them, loaded with meaning neither acknowledged. That was the last breakfast. Because after that 3rd morning, Julian flew to Singapore for emergency merger negotiations. The trip was supposed to be 3 days. It turned into 12. He told himself it was necessary. The Hartwell deal was delicate, required his personal attention. He was doing this for the company, for everyone who depended on Cross Industries. The truth, which he refused to examine, was simpler. Being around Lily made him feel things he'd spent a lifetime learning not to feel. He worked 20-hour days, took calls at 3 a.m., threw himself into the familiar comfort of deals and numbers and problems he knew how to solve. Mrs. Patel sent updates. "Lily's doing well in school. She asks when you're coming back. She set a place for you at dinner, even though I told her you were traveling." He responded with wire transfers. Increased Mrs. Patel's budget for whatever the child needs. Sent his assistant to buy educational toys, premium art supplies, a new tablet. Things. He could provide things. At the penthouse, Lily went smaller. She stopped asking about Julian. Stopped setting his place at dinner. Stopped bringing her book to the table. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked Mrs. Patel one evening, her voice carefully controlled. "Oh, sweetie, no. Mr. Cross is just very busy with work." "Okay." Lily nodded, but her hands twisted together under the table. "I understand. Important people have important things to do." Mrs. Patel's heart broke a little. "You're important too, Lily." "I know." Another lie. "I'm not sad or anything. I'm fine." She stopped eating in the dining room, preferring to take meals in her bedroom. Stopped exploring the penthouse, staying within the small territory of her room and the hallway. Stopped laughing when Mrs. Patel tried to coax smiles from her. She was making herself invisible again, trying not to take up space, trying not to be a burden that might get her sent away. On Julian's 15th day away, Ashford Academy called. Mrs. Patel answered, her expression growing more concerned with each passing moment. When she hung up, she immediately dialed Julian, catching him between meetings in Tokyo, another unplanned extension. "We need to talk," she said without preamble. "I'm about to present to the board." Lily's teacher called. "She's worried." Julian's jaw tightened. "Is she sick?" "Injured." "Emotionally, yes." "Mr. Cross, she doesn't speak in class anymore. Doesn't participate." During Father's Day activities last week, she sat in the corner and drew pictures of an empty house. "The school counselor wants to meet with you. Schedule it with my assistant. They want to meet with you." Her parent. "Not your assistant. I'm her guardian. There's a difference." "Is there?" Mrs. Patel's voice went sharp. "Because from where I'm standing, You're a man who signed papers and provides money, but you've done everything possible to avoid actually being present for a child who desperately needs. I gave her a home. Stability. The best education money can buy. She doesn't want your money. She wants. Mrs. Patel stopped, collected herself. There's a parent-teacher conference on Thursday, 3 p.m. The school needs a guardian there, or they're mandating a home visit from child services to ensure the placement is appropriate. Silence. Julian could hear his own breathing, the distant hum of Tokyo traffic outside his hotel window. Fine, he said finally. I'll be there. Will you? The question was weighted with doubt. He ended the call without answering. That night, alone in a hotel room 8,000 miles from New York, Julian stood at the window and looked at his reflection in the dark glass. He barely recognized himself, rumpled shirt, exhaustion carved into his features, eyes hollow. He'd thought distance would help. Thought if he just maintained enough space, he could fulfill his legal obligation without risking. What? Attachment? Vulnerability? Caring? The word made his chest tight. He pulled out his phone, scrolled to the photos Mrs. Patel had sent. Lily on her first day at Ashford Academy, small in her uniform. Lily at the penthouse, reading on the window seat. Lily with her drawing from school. The empty house that I in every photo. She looked like she was waiting for something that never came. Julian closed his eyes. I just wanted to make sure you were still here. But he wasn't there. He'd run the moment things got complicated. The moment she started to matter. He booked a flight home for the morning. But the damage, he was beginning to understand, might already be done. Julian made it to the parent-teacher conference with 7 minutes to spare. He walked into Ashford Academy's administrative building still wearing his travel clothes, carrying a briefcase, operating on 3 hours of sleep across 2 time zones. The school was all polished wood and oil paintings, and the quiet hum of old money. Children's artwork lined one hallway, bright, messy, honest. Lily's section was easy to spot. While other kids had drawn families at beaches, birthday parties, pets, she'd drawn the penthouse. From the outside, all glass and steel and distance. 2 small figures separated by floors of space. Julian stared at it longer than he meant to. Mr. Cross. He turned to find a woman in her 50s with intelligent eyes and a kind smile that didn't quite hide her concern. I'm Helen Winters, Lily's primary teacher. Thank you for coming. Please, let's talk in my office. The office was small, warm, filled with books and student projects. Julian felt oversized in the child-height chair across from her desk. I'll be direct, Ms. Winters began. Lily is brilliant. Her test scores are exceptional. Her written work is sophisticated beyond her years. But Mr. Cross, she's disappearing. What do you mean disappearing? She doesn't speak unless directly called on. She never volunteers answers, never asks questions. During group work, she does everything herself rather than risk bothering her classmates. At lunch, she sits alone. During recess, she stays inside and organizes the classroom library. Ms. Winters pulled out a folder, slid it across the desk. These are her journal entries from this week's writing prompts. Julian opened the folder. The first entry, responding to what makes you happy, was a single sentence. I am grateful for my opportunities. The second, describe your family, read, I live with Mr. Cross. He is very busy and important. I have everything I need. The third, what do you wish for, was blank except for, I don't want to be greedy. Something cold settled in Julian's stomach. Has she mentioned home life? Ms. Winters asked gently. Any problems? Concerns? No. His voice sounded distant. She doesn't. We don't talk much. I travel frequently for work. I see. The judgment in those 2 words was soft but unmistakable. Mr. Cross, I've worked with foster and adopted children for 20 years. Lily has all the markers of a child who's learned that love is conditional, that she has to earn the right to be kept. I provide everything. I'm sure you do. But children don't need everything. They need someone to show up, to ask about their day and mean it, to be present. She paused. The Father's Day activity was particularly difficult. Every child made a card or gift. Lily made yours, but she threw it away during recess. The janitor retrieved it. Ms. Winters pulled out a construction paper card from her desk drawer. The front had a drawing of a man in a suit, meticulously colored. Inside, in Lily's careful print, Dear Mr. Cross, thank you for adopting me. I will try to be good and not bother you. I know you are busy with important work. I hope I am not too much trouble. Respectfully, Lily. Julian read it twice. The formality, the distance, the careful gratitude that felt like an apology for existing. This is how she sees your relationship, Ms. Winters said quietly. As transactional, temporary, like she's a guest who might overstay her welcome. I've never, he stopped. Because what had he done to make her feel otherwise? What do I do? Show up. Be consistent. Let her be a child, messy, imperfect, demanding. Let her see that your care isn't conditional on her being convenient. Ms. Winters' expression softened. Mr. Cross, she doesn't need you to be perfect. She needs you to be present. The question is, can you do that? Julian left the school feeling gutted. He drove home in silence, Lily's card on the passenger seat, her words echoing. I hope I am not too much trouble. The sky was darkening as he pulled into the building's garage. His phone buzzed, urgent emails, 3 missed calls from his CFO, a crisis in London that needed his attention. He silenced it. Mrs. Patel met him at the door with surprise in her eyes. You're home early. Where is she? Her room. Homework. She had dinner already. Julian walked past her, down the hallway to Lily's door. He raised his hand to knock, then hesitated. Through the door, he heard her voice, so quiet he almost missed it. She was singing. Something soft and sad, a melody he didn't recognize. Then silence. Then the sound of muffled crying, quickly stifled. His hand dropped. He couldn't do this. Didn't know how to do this. What if he made it worse? What if he said the wrong thing? What if you lose her without ever really having her? Julian knocked. The crying stopped instantly. Coming. Her voice was bright, fake. Scrambling sounds, hiding evidence of tears. The door opened. Lily stood there in her school uniform still, face carefully neutral, eyes red-rimmed. Hi, she said politely. I didn't know you were home. Can I come in? She blinked, surprised. Oh, yes, sir. Of course. Sorry, it's messy. It wasn't. Everything was precisely in place. Julian entered, feeling too large for the space. He'd never actually been in here since the designers finished it. It was beautiful. It was impersonal. The only evidence that Lily lived here at all was the worn copy of The Secret Garden on the nightstand and her school bag by the desk. How was school? He asked. Good. Lily. He sat on the edge of her bed. Where did adults sit when talking to children? Everything felt wrong. I met with Ms. Winters today. Her face went pale. Did I do something bad? I'm trying, I really am. No, you didn't do anything wrong. He forced himself to look at her directly. She's worried about you. I'm worried about you. You don't need to worry. I'm fine. I promise I won't be a problem. You're not a problem. She looked at him with heartbreaking skepticism. Julian took a breath. This was harder than any negotiation, any deal, any confrontation he'd ever navigated. I'm not good at this. I don't know how to be what you need. But I'm here now. I'm going to try. If you want me to. Lily stared at him, calculating whether to believe him, whether it was safe to want something. Okay, she finally whispered. They sat in awkward silence. Julian searched desperately for what to say next, how to bridge this canyon between them. Then, from outside, the first rumble of thunder. Mrs. Patel appeared in the doorway, phone in hand, face concerned. Sir, there's a massive storm system moving in. They're calling for a blizzard. They're saying it could be the worst in 50 years, already shutting down bridges and tunnels. Julian looked at his watch. 6:47 p.m. Thursday evening. His flight to London was scheduled for 9 p.m. He thought of the meetings waiting for him, the crisis that needed his attention, the easy escape back into the world where he knew the rules. Then he looked at Lily, small and hopeful and terrified to be hopeful. Show up. Be consistent. Cancel the flight, he told Mrs. Patel. I'm staying home. Lily's eyes went wide. Are you sure? Mrs. Patel asked. The London situation. We'll have to wait. I'm staying. After Mrs. Patel left, Lily asked quietly. Because of the storm? Julian looked at her, this child who'd learned to expect abandonment, who apologized for existing, who'd thrown away a Father's Day card because she didn't believe she deserved to give it. Because I live here too, he said. And I should probably act like it. For the first time since she'd moved in, Lily almost smiled. Outside, the snow began to fall. The blizzard hit with biblical fury. By midnight, 16 inches had fallen. By morning, the city was paralyzed, roads impassable, airports closed, bridges shut down. The news showed abandoned cars buried under snowdrifts, empty streets that looked post-apocalyptic. Inside the penthouse, a different kind of storm was brewing. Julian woke at 6 a.m. out of habit, reached for his phone, and found 17 urgent messages. The London crisis was escalating. His CFO needed decisions. The board was convening an emergency meeting. He started to respond, then heard sounds from the kitchen, cabinet doors opening and closing, the clatter of dishes, a small, frustrated sigh. He found Lily standing on a chair, reaching for the cereal on the top shelf, still in her pajamas, hair wild from sleep. "What are you doing?" She startled, nearly fell. He caught the chair. "I'm sorry. I was trying to make breakfast. Mrs. Patel texted. She can't get here because of the snow. I didn't want to bother you." Julian looked around the kitchen, his pristine, barely used kitchen. He'd lived here for 3 years and couldn't remember the last time he'd actually cooked anything. "I don't." He opened the refrigerator. Milk, eggs, some vegetables. Things Mrs. Patel kept stocked. "I don't really know how to make breakfast." "Oh." Lily climbed down from the chair carefully. "That's okay. I can do cereal. Have you eaten?" He checked the time. "It's 6:15. I usually eat at 6. I didn't want to mess up the schedule." She was 8 years old, maintaining a schedule in a snowstorm while he slept. Something about that felt profoundly wrong. "Let me try," Julian said, rolling up his sleeves. How hard can eggs be? The answer, it turned out, was very hard. He burned the first batch, undercooked the second. The third attempt resulted in something resembling scrambled eggs, though the texture was questionable and he'd somehow gotten shell fragments mixed in. Lily watched from the counter, eyes wide, and then, a sound he'd never heard before. She giggled. It was small, quickly stifled, but unmistakable. "Something funny?" Julian asked, but his tone was light. "No, sir. I mean," she bit her lip, trying not to smile. "You're just really bad at cooking." "I'm aware." He plated the questionable eggs, added toast that was slightly burned. "But we're eating it anyway. Come on." They sat at the dining table, not at opposite ends this time, but across from each other at one corner. The eggs were terrible. Julian forced down 3 bites. Lily ate half her portion without complaint. "You don't have to finish that," he said. "It's inedible. It's not that bad." "Lily, I can see your face. It's awful." She set down her fork, and suddenly she was laughing, real laughter, the kind that shook her small shoulders. "It's really, really bad." They ordered delivery, which took 2 hours to arrive through the storm, and ate pizza for breakfast instead. Lily talked more than he'd ever heard her talk, telling him about school, her favorite books, a girl named Emma who'd invited her to sit at lunch. "Did you?" Julian asked. "No. I wasn't sure if she really meant it or was just being nice." "There's a difference." Lily looked at him seriously. "Being nice is when you invite someone because you're supposed to. Meaning it is when you actually want them there." The insight was devastating. The day passed in a strange, suspended reality. The storm raged outside. Inside, Julian and Lily existed in a bubble where normal rules didn't apply. He taught her chess badly, since he'd learned from books, not people. She beat him by the 3rd game. "You're supposed to let kids win," she said. "Why?" "To be nice. I'd rather you earn it." Something in her expression shifted, pleased, proud, real. By evening, they'd watched 2 movies, built a fort out of couch cushions, Lily's idea, executed with surprising engineering skill. And Julian had fielded 37 work calls while Lily colored quietly nearby. He ordered dinner, Thai food, arriving cold but edible. They ate on the floor of the living room, inside the cushion fort, because Lily had asked, "Can we?" And Julian couldn't think of a reason to say no. "This is the best day I've had in a long time," Lily said quietly, wiping pad thai sauce from her chin. Julian's chest tightened. The best day. Trapped in a snowstorm, eating cold takeout on the floor. The bar for best in her life was devastatingly low. "Tell me about your other homes," he said, before he could stop himself. "Before here." Lily's expression shuddered immediately. They were fine. Julian found himself smiling. Actually smiling. Worst eggs in Manhattan. Maybe worst eggs ever. That's a bold claim. "Lily." She picked at her food. "I don't remember the first ones much. I was little. After my mom. After they took me away. There were 3 foster homes. Everyone was nice. They just didn't keep me. Why not? I don't know. The first family had a baby. They said they couldn't handle 2 kids. The second family moved to Arizona and couldn't take me. The third family. She stopped, swallowed hard. They were going to adopt me. They said they loved me. We did paperwork and everything. But then they changed their minds. Why? They said it wasn't working out. That I was too quiet. Too serious. They wanted a kid who was more. I don't know. Fun, I guess. Julian felt rage boil up. Hot, protective, startling in its intensity. That had nothing to do with you. I know. She didn't sound like she knew. I try to be better now. More fun. But I'm not always good at it. You don't need to be different. She looked at him with those ancient eyes. Everyone always wants me different. The words hung between them, raw, honest, heartbreaking. Julian wanted to tell her she was wrong. That she was perfect as she was. That anyone who'd given her back was an idiot who didn't deserve her. But the words stuck in his throat, tangled with his own fear of promising something he didn't know how to deliver. Instead, he said, I don't want you different. It wasn't enough. But it was true. That night, Lily got sick. It started with sniffles at dinner, progressed to a fever by 8 p.m. By 9, she was burning up, 102.4 degrees, and shivering under 3 blankets. Julian, who'd navigated hostile corporate takeovers without breaking a sweat, was terrified. Should I call an ambulance? He asked Mrs. Patel over video call. She was stuck at her daughter's house in Brooklyn, snowed in. It's just a flu bug, Mr. Cross. Children run hot fevers. Keep her hydrated, monitor her temperature, give her children's Tylenol. There should be some in the bathroom cabinet. What if it gets worse? Then you call a doctor. But for now, just be with her. She needs comfort more than medicine. Julian found the Tylenol, measured the dose 3 times to be sure. Lily took it without complaint, then immediately curled into a miserable ball. Everything hurts, she whimpered. I know. The medicine will help soon. Will you stay? The question was small, vulnerable, wrapped in fever and fear. Julian looked at the doorway, escape route. Looked at his phone, 23 unread messages. Looked at Lily, tiny and sick and asking him to stay. Yes, he said. I'll stay. He pulled the chair from her desk next to the bed, sat down, felt awkward and useless. What did people do when children were sick? He had no frame of reference. No memories of being comforted through illness himself. Lily's fever climbed. She tossed, kicked off blankets, mumbled incoherent things. Julian pressed cool cloths to her forehead, checked her temperature obsessively, and stayed. At 2 a.m., her fever broke. She opened her eyes, clearer now, though exhausted. You're still here, she whispered. I said I would be. People say things. She was half asleep, defenses down. They don't always mean them. Julian reached out, hesitant, unpracticed, and brushed hair from her damp forehead. I mean them. She studied his face, searching for truth. Then, so quietly he almost missed it. Don't leave. I won't. Promise. The word froze him. Promises were contracts, binding, things that could be broken. He'd learned never to promise what he couldn't guarantee. But Lily was looking at him with fever-bright eyes and desperate hope, and Julian realized she'd been promised things before. By people who'd given her back. I promise, he said, and meant it more than he'd meant anything. Lily's hand found his, small, hot, trusting. She held on like he was the only solid thing in the universe. Okay, she breathed and fell asleep. Julian sat there, her small hand in his large one, and felt something fundamental shift inside his chest. This child, this brave, wounded, careful child, had been returned like a defective product. Given back because she wasn't fun enough. Shuffled through homes like she was disposable. And he'd treated her the same way. Kept her at arm's length. Provided resources, but withheld presence. He'd thought he was protecting himself. Maintaining necessary distance. But sitting there at 2 a.m., holding the hand of a sick child who'd asked him not to leave, Julian understood. He wasn't protecting himself. He was repeating the same abandonment she'd survived over and over. And she deserved better than that. Deserved someone who'd fight through their own fear to show up for her. He stayed in that chair all night, dozing fitfully, checking her temperature every hour. When she had nightmares, he was there. When she woke confused and scared, he was there. At 6 a.m., Lily opened her eyes. Fever gone, clarity returned. She saw him still sitting there, rumpled and exhausted, and her eyes filled with tears. You stayed the whole night. I promised. Nobody's ever. She stopped, overwhelmed. Julian squeezed her hand gently. I'm not nobody, and you're not going anywhere. For the first time since she'd moved in, Lily believed him. Just a little. Just enough. Later that morning, While Lily slept, Julian found himself in the home office, staring at a file he'd been avoiding. Lily Chun background and case history. He'd never opened it. Told himself he didn't need to know details. That the past didn't matter, only the present arrangement. But that was a lie. The past mattered. It explained everything. Her carefulness, her apologies, her midnight checks to make sure he was still there. He opened the file. The first document was an intake form from when Lily was 5. Removed from her mother's care due to severe neglect. Mother was an addict, often disappeared for days, left Lily alone without food. A neighbor found her crying on the apartment steps, asking everyone who passed if they'd seen her mommy. Next, foster placement reports. Home 1, 6 months. Lily is quiet, compliant, no behavioral issues. Family moving out of state. Home 2, 8 months. Lily is withdrawn but polite. Family expecting biological child, cannot manage both. Home 3, the one that had tried to adopt her. 14 months. Final note. Placement disrupted. Child 2 emotionally reserved. Family seeking more engaged child. 2 emotionally reserved. A 5-year-old who'd been abandoned and neglected was blamed for being traumatized. The last item in the file was a journal, the one his social worker had given Lily for processing feelings. Julian knew he shouldn't read it. It was private, personal. He read it anyway. Most entries were brief, careful. Today was good. I am grateful. I got an A on my test. I will try to be better. But one entry, dated 3 months before Julian adopted her, was different. I try so hard to be good. I smile even when I'm sad. I clean without being asked. I never ask for things. I make myself small and quiet. But nobody keeps me. Mrs. Davis says it's not my fault. But if it's not my fault, why does everyone give me back? Maybe I'm the kind of person who's not supposed to be kept. Maybe I'm supposed to be alone. I wish I could be different. I wish I could be the kind of kid someone wants forever. Julian read it 3 times, each word a knife to the chest. This was who he'd brought into his home. A child who believed she was fundamentally unkeepable, who'd learned to perform perfection and apologize for existing. And he'd confirmed every fear she had. Stayed distant. Traveled constantly. Treated her like an obligation. He closed the file and sat in silence, hands shaking. The snow had stopped. The city was digging out. Soon Mrs. Patel would make it back. Normal life would resume. He could return to his comfortable distance, his familiar patterns. Or he could choose differently. Julian looked at the photo on his desk, the one Patricia had included with the adoption papers. Lily at 7, 2 serious eyes, not smiling. Nobody keeps me. I will, he said aloud to the empty office. I'll keep you. The question was whether he could keep that promise. Whether he was capable of being what she needed. Whether he was brave enough to try. The blizzard broke on the 3rd day, leaving the city transformed, white, quiet, softened. Julian didn't go back to London. He rescheduled meetings, delegated crises, and did something he hadn't done in 15 years. He took time off. Mrs. Patel returned to find the penthouse in gentle disarray, cushioned forts still standing, dishes in the sink, Lily's drawings scattered across the coffee table. She smiled and said nothing. The shift was subtle but unmistakable. Julian started coming home by 6. He had breakfast with Lily every morning. Asked about her day and listened, really listened, to her careful answers. Tell me something real, he said one morning over eggs he'd learned to cook properly. Not the perfect answer. The real one. Lily looked up, startled. What do you mean? When I ask how school was, you always say good. But I want to know what actually happened. What made you happy? What was hard? The truth. She considered this, testing whether it was safe. Emma invited me to her birthday party. That's good news. I don't know if I should go. Why not? What if? She twisted her napkin. What if I'm boring? What if she realizes she doesn't actually like me? Julian set down his fork. What if she invited you because she does like you? What if you go and have fun? That feels scary too. Why? Lily's voice went small. Because if it's good, I'll want it more. And wanting things hurts when they go away. The words hit Julian like a physical blow. This 8-year-old had learned that desire was dangerous. That caring meant inevitable loss. He understood that lesson intimately. I know that fear, he said quietly. I've lived my whole life avoiding wanting things I couldn't control. Does it work? It keeps you safe, but it also keeps you alone. They sat in silence, 2 people recognizing themselves in each other. Go to the party, Julian said finally. I'll take you shopping for a gift. And if it's terrible, we'll get ice cream after and complain about it. Promise. Promise. Lily smiled, a real smile, tentative but genuine. Okay, I'll go. The following Saturday, Julian found himself in a toy store for the first time in his adult life. What does Emma like? He asked, surrounded by aisles of incomprehensible options. Art stuff. She draws horses. They wandered through the store, Lily's hand loosely holding his sleeve, not quite hand-holding, but contact nonetheless. She showed him options, narrated the social dynamics of 8-year-old gift-giving, occasionally forgot to be careful, and just existed. Julian bought the art supplies Emma would like, then surprised Lily by adding a set for her too. I didn't ask for anything, she said quickly. I know. I wanted to. But, Lily. He knelt to her level, meeting her eyes. You're allowed to receive things without earning them. You're allowed to want things. That's what kids do. Her eyes filled with tears. What if I get used to it? Good. Get used to it. On the way home, they passed a bookstore. Lily's steps slowed as she looked in the window. Want to go in? Julian asked. We already got Emma's gift. This would be for you. Inside, Lily moved through the aisles with reverent care, fingers trailing over spines. Julian watched her fall in love with a dozen books, then reluctantly narrow it down to one, a thick fantasy novel with a dragon on the cover. Just one? Julian asked. I don't want to be greedy. He picked up the book, then grabbed 5 more she'd looked at longingly. Not greedy. Just a kid who likes to read. At the register, Lily tugged his sleeve. That's too much money. I have enough money to buy every book in this store. I'd rather buy the ones that make you happy. Walking home, Lily carried the bag like treasure, and Julian felt something warm settle in his chest. Pride. Connection. Something dangerously close to joy. The changes accumulated like snowfall, small, constant, transformative. Julian learned to braid hair by watching YouTube tutorials at midnight. His first attempts were disasters. Lily wore them to school anyway, came home and asked, Can you try again tomorrow? He taught her chess properly this time, explaining strategy, letting her win sometimes but making her work for it. She was sharp, caught patterns quickly, started beating him legitimately. You're smarter than you pretend to be, he observed one evening. I didn't want to make you feel bad. Lily, beat me. I can handle it. She did, then grinned with pure, uncomplicated triumph. They established rituals. Saturday morning bookstore trips. Sunday evening movies, Lily's choice. Nightly check-ins where Julian sat on the edge of her bed and asked, Best part of your day? Hardest part. At first, her answers were careful. Gradually, they became real. Best part, lunch with Emma. Hardest part, Jackson said my reading was showing off. What did you say? Nothing. I didn't want to cause problems. You're allowed to defend yourself. Even if it makes people uncomfortable? Especially then. Lily processed this. You don't seem like someone who worries about making people uncomfortable. Julian smiled slightly. I spent a lot of time learning not to care what people think. Maybe too much time. Is that why you're alone? The question was innocent, curious, devastating. Yes, he admitted. I thought being alone was safer than being hurt. Is it? No. It's just lonelier. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday. Lily had a school project, build a model of a historical landmark. She'd chosen the Brooklyn Bridge, was constructing it from popsicle sticks and glue with intense focus. Julian came home to find her in tears. The bridge collapsed, pieces scattered across the dining table. I messed it up, she sobbed. It's due tomorrow and I ruined it, Anne. Hey, it's okay. It's not okay. I'm so stupid. You're not stupid. You're 8. And bridge engineering is hard. He sat beside her, examined the pieces. Want help rebuilding? You don't have to. I want to. Come on. We'll figure it out together. They worked for 3 hours. Julian had conference calls waiting, emails piling up. He ignored them. They problem-solved, tested designs, failed, tried again. When pieces wouldn't stick, Lily got frustrated. When Julian suggested a solution that didn't work, she corrected him. They were a team. At 9 p.m., the bridge stood crooked, imperfect, but standing. Lily threw her arms around Julian's neck without thinking, squeezed hard. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Julian froze. Then, carefully, his arms came around her small body. She fit perfectly against his chest, her heartbeat quick and alive against his. She pulled back, suddenly shy. Sorry. I didn't ask if. You never have to ask for a hug. Really? Really? She hugged him again, longer this time. Julian closed his eyes and held her, this brave child who'd learned to expect nothing and was slowly, carefully, learning to accept everything. "You're really good at this," Lily whispered against his shoulder. "At what?" "Being a dad." The word stopped his heart. Dad. Not Mr. Cross. Not guardian. Dad. But she'd said it so casually, without weight, like she was just stating fact. And then she pulled away, gathered up her bridge, started chattering about how excited Emma would be to see it. Julian sat frozen, the word echoing in his head. Dad. He wasn't her father. He was her legal guardian. The man who'd signed papers, provided resources, fulfilled an obligation. Except somewhere between burned eggs and YouTube braiding tutorials and midnight promises, something had changed. He looked at Lily, glue in her hair, exhausted, triumphant, looking at him like he was someone she could count on. And he realized he didn't want to be her guardian. He wanted to be her father. The thought terrified him more than any business deal, any risk he'd ever taken. Because this wasn't something he could control, couldn't strategize, couldn't protect himself from. This required vulnerability, trust, faith that love wouldn't destroy him. Lily looked back, smiled. What? Nothing, Julian said, voice rough. I'm proud of you. Her smile widened. I'm proud of us. Us. A team. A unit. A family. Julian's chest felt too full, like something was expanding inside him that had been compressed for decades. He was falling in love with this child, and it was the most terrifying, exhilarating thing he'd ever experienced. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Julian stood in her doorway watching her breathe. Her room had changed, no longer pristine and untouched. Drawings covered the walls. Books spilled from shelves. A half-finished puzzle covered the desk. Evidence of a child actually living, not just existing. Mrs. Patel appeared beside him, silent. She's different, Julian said quietly. Happier. So are you. He didn't deny it. I didn't think I could do this. Be this. What changed? Julian thought of Lily asking why are you alone? Thought of her trusting him enough to fall apart. Thought of her casual, you're really good at being a dad. She did, he said simply. She made me want to try. Mrs. Patel smiled. That's what children do, Mr. Cross. They make us braver than we knew we could be. Julian watched Lily sleep, her face peaceful in a way it hadn't been when she'd first arrived. She looked like a child now. Not a guest. Not a burden. Like someone who belonged. I love her, he said, the words surprising him even as he spoke them. I didn't mean to. I wasn't trying to. But I do. I know. What if I mess it up? What if I hurt her? You will mess up. All parents do. But you'll also show up. You'll try. You'll love her even when it's hard. Mrs. Patel squeezed his shoulder. That's all any child really needs. To know they're worth fighting for. After she left, Julian stayed in the doorway. Worth fighting for. Lily was worth it. Worth the fear, the vulnerability, the risk of his heart breaking. For the first time in his adult life, Julian Cross had something more important than his empire. He had a daughter. Now he just had to make sure she knew it. When was the last time you let yourself need someone? Or let someone need you? Julian's learning that love isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing we do. What's your take? Share your thoughts below. Down arrow. The adoption finalization hearing was scheduled for a Thursday in late March. Julian treated it like any other legal proceeding, prepared documents, confirmed attorney attendance, blocked time on his calendar. It was a formality. The social workers had completed their home visits. The reports were glowing. Lily was thriving. This was just making it official. He didn't realize how much it meant to Lily until the night before. She couldn't sleep. He found her at midnight, sitting on her bed in the dark, knees pulled to her chest. What's wrong? He asked from the doorway. Nothing. I'm fine. He'd learned to read her lies. Lily. She was quiet for a long moment. What if tomorrow they say no? Julian entered the room, sat on the edge of her bed. They won't. Everything's approved. It's just a judge signing papers. But what if something goes wrong? What if they decide I'm not good enough? What if you change your mind? I'm not changing my mind. You don't know that. Her voice was tight with panic. People always change their minds about me. What if tomorrow you realize you don't actually want? Lily, look at me. She did, eyes bright with unshed tears. Tomorrow, a judge is going to sign a paper that says what's already true. You're mine. You're staying. Nothing is going to change that. You promise. I promise. She nodded, but the fear didn't leave her eyes. Okay. Julian stayed until she fell asleep, her hand loosely holding his wrist, like she was afraid he'd disappear if she let go. The hearing itself was anticlimactic. 10 minutes in family court, a kind judge asking Lily if she was happy, signing documents with ceremonial gravity. Congratulations, Judge Morrison said, smiling at them both. You're officially a family. Walking out of the courthouse, Lily's hand in his, Julian felt something settle. Relief. Completion. This was real now. Permanent. Legal and binding in ways that mattered. Patricia waited outside, briefcase in hand, expression satisfied. Well done, Julian. The adoption is final. Which means, she pulled out another folder. The merger with Hartwell Industries can proceed. Chen's shares are now officially under your control. The board meeting is scheduled for next week. Julian took the folder automatically, but something felt wrong. Off. Lily's hand had gone rigid in his. This was always about the company, Patricia continued, oblivious. Robert knew exactly what he was doing with that will clause. Forcing your hand with the adoption requirement was brilliant strategy. But you pulled it off. The company's secure, and you fulfilled your obligation to Robert's memory. Win-win. The words hung in the air like poison. Obligation. Strategy. Requirement. Julian felt Lily's hand slip from his. Looked down to see her face blank, shut down, that careful emptiness he hadn't seen in weeks. Lily. I need to use the bathroom, she said, voice flat. She walked away before he could respond. Patricia noticed nothing. The Hartwell merger will make Cross Industries unstoppable. Robert would be proud. And honestly, taking in the kid worked out better than expected. Didn't it? She seems well-adjusted. Patricia. Julian's voice was ice. Stop talking. She blinked, confused. What? That's my daughter you're discussing like a business transaction. I didn't mean, I was just saying. Leave. Now. After she left, Julian went to find Lily. She was in the courthouse bathroom, standing at the sink, staring at nothing. Lily. I'm fine. Her reflection in the mirror was eerily composed. Can we go home now? What you heard, that's not. I said I'm fine. Her voice had edges. You got what you needed. The company's safe. Congratulations. That's not why. It doesn't matter. She turned to face him, and her eyes were ancient again. 8 years old and already fluent in disappointment. I knew this is what it was. I just forgot for a little while. That's my fault. Lily, listen to me. Can we please just go home? The ride back was silent. Lily stared out the window, rigid and distant. Julian tried 3 times to start a conversation. She gave one-word answers that at the penthouse. She went straight to her room and closed the door. Julian stood in the hallway, feeling everything he'd built over the past month crumbling. He tried to explain over dinner. Lily refused to come out of her room. He tried through the door. What Patricia said, she doesn't understand. The adoption was never just about the company. Silence. Lily, please. Talk to me. I'm tired. Can I just sleep? He wanted to push. Force the conversation. But pushing felt like the wrong move. He backed off. Gave her space. Told himself she just needed time to process. But the next morning, everything was different. Lily was polite. Distant. Called him Mr. Cross again. I made eggs, Julian said at breakfast. The way you like them. Thank you, Mr. Cross. You can call me Julian. Or, he hesitated. What you were calling me before. I think Mr. Cross is more appropriate. The words were surgical, precise, designed to create distance. Lily, I know what you heard upset you, but I'm not upset. I understand. You needed to adopt someone to keep your company. Roberts will said so. You chose me. It's fine. It's not fine. And it's not. It wasn't like that. Wasn't it? She looked at him directly, and her eyes were cold. You never wanted a kid. You said so yourself that first day. You hired Mrs. Patel, so you wouldn't have to deal with me. You traveled for 2 weeks to avoid being here. The only reason you stayed during the blizzard was because you were trapped. That's not. You were nice to me because you had to be. Because if the adoption didn't go through, you'd lose your company. Now it's done. The papers are signed. You don't have to pretend anymore. I wasn't pretending. Lily flinched at his raised voice. Julian immediately lowered it, but the damage was done. I'm going to be late for school, she said quietly. Gathered her bag. Walked toward the door. Lily, wait. She stopped, but didn't turn around. I'm grateful for everything you've done. I'll try not to be too much trouble. I know my place now. Then she was gone. Mrs. Patel found Julian standing in the empty kitchen 20 minutes later, staring at uneaten eggs. "She won't talk to me," he said. "Can you blame her?" "I didn't. Patricia was wrong. The adoption wasn't," he stopped. "It started that way. But it's not why I. Does Lily know that?" Julian closed his eyes. "I thought she did. That child has been abandoned by every adult who promised to keep her. She finally let herself believe you were different. And then she heard you discussing her adoption in terms of business strategy and company obligations. I wasn't the one who said those things. But you didn't correct Patricia. Not immediately. Not in front of Lily. The truth of it hit like a fist. He'd been so stunned by Patricia's words, so focused on the legal victory, that he hadn't immediately shut down the narrative. Hadn't thought about how it would sound to Lily. By the time he'd reacted, the damage was done. "What do I do?" Mrs. Patel's expression was sad. "You tell her the truth. The whole truth. And hope she's brave enough to believe you." "Elena." He looked at her directly. "I have a daughter at home who thinks I value my company more than her. If I go to that gala, I prove her right. So cancel it. Send my regrets. Blame me. I don't care." Elena's expression shifted from shock to understanding to something like respect. "Yes, sir. I'll handle it." After she left, Julian sat in his office and stared at the city below. 43 floors up, master of everything he could see. But he was about to lose the only thing that mattered. He thought about his conversation with Mrs. Patel. Show her, not tell her. Show her what? That she was more important than his company? That he'd choose her over everything he'd built? Julian pulled up his phone, looked at his calendar, wall-to-wall meetings, conference calls, obligations that ran his life. Then he opened his email and began typing. To Cross Industries executive team from Julian Cross, subject, immediate leave of absence. Effective immediately, I'm taking a leave of absence from all operational duties. I will remain available for emergencies, but day-to-day operations will be handled by the executive team. Duration, indefinite. This is not negotiable. His finger hovered over send. This was everything he'd fought against. Showing weakness. Admitting that something mattered more than work. Letting people see that he was vulnerable. But Lily mattered more than his pride. He hit send. That evening, Julian came home at 4 p.m., hours earlier than usual. Mrs. Patel raised her eyebrows. "Lily's in her room," she said. "Same as every day." "I know." He headed for his office, closed the door, and did something he'd never done. He sat on the floor outside Lily's bedroom door and waited. Not talking. Not knocking. Just being there. Mrs. Patel found him there at 5. Brought him coffee, said nothing, left. At 6, he heard Lily moving inside. Footsteps approaching the door. A long pause. She must have seen his shadow under the door. The footsteps retreated. At 7, Mrs. Patel tried to bring him dinner. "You should eat." "I'm good here." "How long are you planning to sit there?" "As long as it takes." At 8, his phone buzzed. Emergency call from the CFO. Julian silenced it. At 9, board member after board member called about his leave of absence email. He ignored every call. At 10, the hallway grew dark. Julian remained. At 11, he heard Lily crying softly through the door. Every instinct screamed to knock, to comfort, to fix it. But he stayed quiet, just present, letting her know he was there, that he wasn't leaving, that she could take all the time she needed. At midnight, the door opened. Lily stood there in her pajamas, eyes red and swollen, looking down at him sitting on the floor. "What are you doing?" Her voice was hoarse. "Keeping a promise." "What promise?" "That I wouldn't leave. You've been out here for 8 hours." "Yes." "I'm sorry," he whispered into her hair. "I'm so sorry I scared you. Are you really not going to the gala?" "Really. What will you do instead?" "Whatever you want. Movie marathon. Build another bridge. Sit here and hold you. I don't care. As long as I'm with you." Lily pulled back enough to look at him, her eyes still wet but lighter somehow. "Can we make pancakes? You're bad at them, but I like them anyway." Julian laughed, actually laughed. "The worst pancakes in Manhattan. Coming right up. And can we?" She hesitated. "Can I call you something different? Not Mr. Cross." His heart stopped. "What would you like to call me?" She bit her lip, terrified and hopeful. The word was barely a whisper, fragile as glass, weighted with everything she'd wanted and feared. "Dad." #Act 9, resolution. Word count, 100 words. Julian's breath caught in his throat. Dad. The word he'd never thought he'd hear. Never thought he'd want to hear. The word that changed everything. He looked at Lily, small and scared and brave, waiting for his answer, preparing herself for rejection, already building walls in case he said no. Yes, he said, voice breaking on the single syllable. Yes, you can call me Dad. Her face transformed, terror melting into wonder, into joy so pure it hurt to witness. Dad, she whispered again, testing the word, tasting its shape. Dad, I'm here, sweetheart. I'm right here. She threw herself at him again, and he caught her, would always catch her, holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Because she was. They stayed there in the hallway for a long time, wrapped around each other, both crying, both healing, both finally home. Mrs. Patel found them like that, Julian on the floor, Lily in his lap, both tear-stained and smiling. She pressed a hand to her heart, her own eyes wet. Well then, I suppose I should make those pancakes. No, Julian said, standing with Lily still in his arms. She wrapped her legs around his waist, arms around his neck, face pressed to his shoulder. We're making them. Terribly. Together. Can Mrs. Patel help? Lily asked. Dad's really bad at pancakes. Dad. She said it naturally, easily, like she'd been saying it her whole life. Julian's chest ached with happiness. Yeah, Mrs. Patel should definitely help. They made pancakes at 1 a.m. Julian burned the first batch. Lily giggled. Mrs. Patel supervised with fond exasperation. They started a flour fight that left the kitchen dusted in white. Lily laughed, really laughed, loud and uninhibited and free. The pancakes were still terrible. They ate every bite. Afterward, Lily started to fade, exhaustion catching up with 9 days of heartbreak and 1 night of emotional catharsis. Bed, Julian said gently. You have school tomorrow. Can I stay home? She looked up at him through her lashes. Just tomorrow. I don't think I can. I just want to be here. With you. Done. We'll call it a mental health day. Really? Really? You've had a rough week. We both have. In her room, Julian tucked her in, something he'd never done properly before. He pulled the blankets up, smoothed her hair back, sat on the edge of the bed. Dad. Her voice was small. Yeah. What if I have nightmares? Then I'll be right down the hall. Call for me. I'll come. Promise. Promise. She was quiet for a moment. Then, what if I need to check that you're still here? Like before. Julian thought about finding her in the hallway at 2 a.m., terrified everyone she loved would disappear. You know what? I have a better idea. He pulled out his phone, fiddled with settings. See this app? It's a 2-way monitor. I'm setting one up in here and one in my room. If you wake up scared, you can see me. And I can see you. We can talk without you having to leave your room. Lily's eyes widened. Really? Really? And if you need me in person, I'm 30 seconds away. Always. That's really good. Her voice was thick with relief. He kissed her forehead, hesitant, unpracticed, but genuine. Good night, sweetheart. Good night, Dad. He made it to the doorway before she called out again. Dad. He turned back. Yeah. I'm glad it was you. What do you mean? Robert's will. Him making you adopt someone. I'm glad it was me. I'm glad I got to be yours. Julian's vision blurred. I'm the lucky one, Lily. I'm the one who got you. Six months later, Julian stood in the same school gymnasium where Lily had drawn him an empty penthouse. It was Father's Day again. This time, he'd cleared his entire schedule. Arrived early. Sat in a tiny chair with the other parents, watching Lily nervously clutch a wrapped present. When it was her turn, she walked over, more confident now, lighter somehow, and handed him the gift. Inside was a drawing, but not like the one from before. This one showed the penthouse too, but different. Warm. Full. 2 figures close together, hands linked. Hearts drawn around them. And at the bottom, in Lily's careful print. Asterisk my dad and me. Our home, asterisk. Julian's vision blurred. Do you like it? Lily asked, nervous. He pulled her into a hug, not caring that every parent in the gymnasium could see him crying. It's perfect, he whispered. You're perfect. I'm really not, she said, but she was smiling. You are to me. They walked to the car hand in hand. Lily chattered about the summer camp she wanted to attend, the chess tournament coming up, whether they could get a cat. Maybe, he said, they'd talk about it. Normal things. Family things. The beautiful mundane details of a life built on love. At a red light, Lily went quiet. What are you thinking about? Julian asked. She looked at him seriously. Remember when you said love isn't a weakness? Yeah, I used to think people who loved were stupid, because love meant getting hurt when they left. And now I think people who don't love are the stupid ones, because they miss out on this. She gestured between them. On us. Julian reached over, squeezed her hand. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. She smiled. You taught me it's okay to need people. That families aren't perfect, but they show up anyway. That love means choosing someone every single day, even when it's hard. You taught me the same things. So we taught each other. Yeah, we did. The light turned green. Julian drove home. To their home, the penthouse that was no longer cold and empty, but warm and full and alive. That night, after Lily was in bed, Julian sat in his office and looked at the photo on his desk. The one from the park. Both of them smiling, Lily's ice cream melting, his tie crooked, both completely happy. He picked up his phone and texted Patricia. Asterisk, you were wrong. The adoption wasn't about the company. The company was the excuse to bring me the one thing I actually needed. Thank you for handling it, asterisk. Then he opened his email and sent a message to the executive team. Asterisk, leave of absence extended indefinitely. Family comes first. Always asterisk. He turned off his computer, walked down the hall, checked on Lily, sleeping peacefully, that small smile on her face that meant good dreams. He stood in her doorway and whispered into the darkness. Thank you for teaching me how to love. Thank you for being brave enough to need me. Thank you for calling me Dad. And then, because she couldn't hear him, but he needed to say it anyway. I didn't believe in love until you. But I believe now. I believe in you. In us. In this family we built from broken pieces. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving you were right to believe in me too. He closed her door gently, leaving it cracked with the hallway light on, and went to bed knowing that for the first time in his life, he was exactly where he was supposed to be. Home. Not because of the penthouse or the city or the empire he'd built, but because home wasn't a place. It was a small girl who'd taken a chance on a broken man and taught him that love wasn't weakness. It was strength. It was everything. It was her. Julian learned that the empire he built meant nothing without someone to come home to. Lily learned she was always worthy of being kept. What's the most important lesson this story taught you? And who in your life needs to hear that they matter more than anything? Drop your thoughts below. Sometimes we all need to be reminded what really matters.